Hello, everybody! If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, is my co-host Tom. What's going on, Tom? How you doing, buddy?
Hello, friends. I am here on time, and everything's okay.
Tom didn't show up right at the last possible second, and then forced me to diagnose audio issues. That isn't what happened. That I would have known had existed had he joined earlier.
It's not my fault your shit's broke. That's all I'm saying.
Yes. Okay, so at any rate, tonight we're going to be talking about our AOS 4.0 wish list. We're going to be talking about what we hope to see in the next edition. And I hear you saying, Vince, but isn't that a long way away? Yes, it is. Potentially, theoretically, it's next year. And that's why we're talking about it now. We got to get in on the ground floor, right? So when the GW designers listen to this, as I'm sure Thursday in the office, they just crack this up on the big screen.
We're talking to you, Dave. We know you're working on development right now. I know there's not.
Sure.
Yeah, that's funny. We're gonna help you out. We're here for you.
Exactly. The idea here is straightforward. We are going to we want to talk about this stuff now, so hopefully it actually comes to pass. Because later will be too late.
And not only that, not only are we helping you do your job, we're doing it for free, right? We care.
That's what it is.
Yeah, we're here for you.
Absolutely. But first, of course, the news. All right.
Yep. So we have stuff.
We do.
Stuff in the news. A rumor engine. Always a rumor engine.
There is.
Ever the rumor engine.
Ever the rumor engine. It is a Chaos Star thing. It could be one of any million kits. There are a million kits where that sort of a Chaos Star could exist from every single game system they make.
It's clearly a new endless spell for Slave Starkers. It's just replacing the old kit.
The eightfold Doom Sigil, the most impossible one to read. Yeah, sure.
Right. They decided that they can't design new rules for it without designing a new model. There it is.
Sure.
I've cracked the case.
Well, no, now it's you've missed a trick. It's the second part of the Doom Sigil. You set up the miniature Doom Sigil and the full Doom Sigil, and now there's also a second addendum onto it where now the little one orbits the big one, and then you measure from the primary to the secondary. It's even better now.
You know what this is called in the description for the endless spell?
What's that?
The corollary.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there you go. Okay. So yeah, it could be a Chaos Star from literally any game they have. So great.
Amazing. What about that FAQ that dropped?
Yeah, let's talk about the FAQ. I realized I jumped ahead with my photo. Sorry, let me bring up the FAQ. Here we go. Okay. So we got two FAQs. Yep. Bone Reapers and Soulblight Gravelords, and I have to say I'm pretty happy with all of these. So first off, I like the if a mortal wound caused by the curse of your spell is negated, do I get to roll a die as described within the rules text? Yes. Fun answer. So that way it doesn't just shut off quite easily. So.
More fun.
Yeah, that's good. I have no problem with that. This spell was never that broken, other than in that short time period way back in AOS 1.0 where it could just run rampant. If you remember, there was ways to just juice it.
Fine then. It was fine.
Sure. And then you can unbind with the Mortec Throne, so that's fine. I always assumed you could. I didn't know this was a question, but good clarification. Big change here on Petrifex Elite, and I'm happy to see it. Unstoppable Juggernauts changed from the -1 damage to subtract 1 from wound rolls. Still quite a powerful ability, I will point out.
It is. I dropped in at my local club. Actual Trash was running an RTT, and one of the guys, Will, was just kicking dicks. Sure. With his with a Petrifex list in the -1 damage, and so it was probably needed. This was an adjustment that probably needed to happen.
Yeah, the problem is I still think you have a lot of incentive to go with the super elite models, as we'll talk about in just a moment, depending on how this FAQ gets FAQ'd. But this is a good change in my book. I really think neg 1 damage is toxic and just basically shouldn't be in the game on that kind of a broad level, as we discussed during the overused rules discussion last week. Go check that out if you want to see us talk about that in egregious detail. But this is still a very strong bonus, and it's good. I have no issue with it. Like, it's a very strong rule. It's very nice. Okay. The Gothzar Harvester. So a timing change here means a lot of actual change. So at the end of the combat phase, which is like, there's a lot in those 7 words, because that's the shooting match here, right? We move this to the end of the combat phase instead of immediately upon drop roll, drop roll, drop roll, drop roll. You can pick one friendly Ossiarch Bone Reaper's unit that is within 6 inches of this unit and had models slain in that phase. If you do so, roll a dice for each model from that unit that was slain in that phase. On a 4+, you get to do one of the following. Okay. Option 1. If it's a wounds characteristic of 4 or less, you can heal 1 wound. If it's a wound characteristic of 5 or more, you can heal 3 wounds. Now, obviously, in a lot of cases, this is all this healing doesn't matter, right? Because it doesn't matter how many dice you roll. Like, it's not. It'll often just heal them to full and be done if it's actually doing the healing.
Not really going to change anything. Yeah.
Right. Now, if no wounds are currently allocated to the unit you picked, you can return a number of slain models to it that have a combined wounds characteristic of equal to or less than the number of wounds you could have healed. So, the question becoming, does this, like, can you now restore bigger people, bigger models? And, my read on it is yes, but I understand why some people say no. So you can restore very big things with this, assuming that enough died to trigger enough dice rolls that you actually got it to happen. So, like, that's obviously the gate. It's not the easiest thing to accomplish, but it can. But, you know, it's that is an open question. I can see people reading it both ways, because they could say, well, it doesn't have this, that's not how the trigger works and yada yada. But to me, it does work. So that's fine. It's an end of phase thing. But it will change some effect. I still think it's quite good.
I agree. For me, the heartbreak was in the Soulblight FAQ.
Well, let's jump over to the Soulblight FAQ then, shall we? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was very happy with this FAQ.
I mean, it's fine. It's fine. I really wanted those Kaskargi.
Kasargi Nygar. Yeah, I understand. I know. We all did. We all did.
We wanted them playable, right? We wanted them on the table.
I'm with you.
I love that they're like, yes, it can be taken above its maximum size. Like, that was the first thing that I saw, and I was like, oh, here we go.
Sure.
And all it was some level. And I was wow.
It's fine. All right. Does the Doom Dominions command trait apply to attacks made by mounts? And the answer is no, it shouldn't. It is a command trait, but it's so funny because I ran into this. The last couple weeks I've been playing against Soulblight, and the opponent used this command trait because it's a really good command trait. And I was like, I don't think this applies to mounts. You know, like, I quoted exactly 27.3.1, and I was like, there's nothing in this rule that says it breaks the core of it's a command trait, hence it can't apply to mounts. But, you know, obviously it was a bit unusual in the way the bonus did, since it said it applies to everything within 3 inches. So it's like, well, the mounts within 3 inches. Right. So, like, I could see the argument people were making, but I always came down from there. It didn't. And no, it doesn't. Which is fine. This is like a really strong ability, by the way.
Yes, it is. It's very good.
Also, I want you to know that you are, like, by comments and everybody on this show and my own personal lived experience, you have surpassed our worst takes ever on this show. With your zombie thing. If you don't think zombies aren't wildly strong.
I know. They are wildly strong, and I'm hearing all the rage of pushing 120 bodies up on objectives and being like, suck it, kill yourself.
Correct.
Enjoy.
It's what happens. Yes. It's boy, oh boy, is it egregious. At any rate, by the way, Skeleton's really good too. I just want to point that out. It's funny because, again, been playing Soulblight now, so I've got the chance to run against multiple armies. And he's run both zombie heavy and skeleton heavy armies, and so it was just interesting to see both had a lot of play.
Yeah, I'm okay with having bad takes. It happens sometimes.
Sure.
What I will say is that kudos to GW. It's taken them like 5 years, but they finally got Nefrata. That bitch has been throwing that she's been throwing that spell around for so long that would like make a target unrendable but still get bonuses to save.
Yeah, egregious.
And finally they got her.
Yeah. So the by the way, language. So Virkos. The Virkos thing clarified. Yes, exactly. It's summonable. Cool. So it's zombies. Fine. And then yes, Neferata. Finally, Dark Mist is just basically ethereal.
Yes.
Oh boy! Thank goodness for this. I cannot explain. This has been truly my opponent has run Neferata every time because why wouldn't you? And to fight through this was just like so terrible, so terrible, because it's just 2 ups, nothing dies, and then the unit heals 6 wounds.
Right.
That's what happens. Any wounds you get through are immediately erased. You're not going to kill anything, and then they immediately self-heal.
Yep.
That's all that happened.
Yep.
Unless you were just mortal wound spam to the moon and back, right?
Right.
Which obviously not every army can do.
Yep.
The Blood Knights, this is a good clarification. A lot of people tried to defend Blood Knights when I said I'm underwhelmed by Blood Knights in their new incarnation, and they said, well, you can pile in and do all these things and still trigger the wounds. I never thought that was how it was going to work or how it was meant to work. They always FAQ that stuff away from it. So now you only trigger it on that wounds characteristic of 3 or less, and only on a normal move, run, or charge.
Yeah.
I have played against Blood Knights, and my answer is they're okay. Like if you catch them flat-footed, they're not good at all.
Fine.
Yeah. They're very expensive for what you get out of them, and the fact is, honestly, you'd be better off with just an equivalent amount of skeletons. Honest answer. Or Black Knights. Black Knights, I'm so impressed by. They die super easy, but boy oh boy, do they hit when they land. Yeah.
Yeah, they're fine.
And when you lose them, it's like pff, whatever.
They're like, cool. I paid half cost for these Blood Knights.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, and then the Deadwalker zombie, just the extra clarification on the model restoration. So
yeah, I mean, which is fine. Like, I do like that you can add like summonable Deadwalkers above the maximum size with the pack alpha, and also with the newly dead. Like that, they clarified that there's just no confusion here.
Yep.
Yeah, you're just adding bodies, which like, man, like I just wonder if there's some like adding a D3. Like I know the right answer mathematically is probably always adding to your zombies just for mortal wound kickback. Like that's probably the right answer for D3 additional models. But thinking about adding like 6 wounds to a direwolf unit, right? Like that's not an insignificant amount of wounds for a D3 every hero base. So I don't know. Like I'm still hot on Virkos. It's just where I'm at.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, Legion of Blood is. By the way, I'm getting a little echo from you. I don't know why. You might want to. Oh, probably because you don't have your headphones in.
I'll continue talking. I'll see what I can.
I mean, I've just been impressed by the whole army. Like Soulblight is oppressively strong right now. It does not surprise me that is shot to the top of the competitive lists, because playing against it now for many weeks in a row, boy oh boy, is it like. It's real strong, and I am just deeply impressed by its capabilities. If you like the to the point where it's very, very hard to play against, like very hard, to the point where it's often like I don't know how I actually beat this with many of my armies. Like just it shows up with such a huge advantage. With my Skaven, I was able to outmaneuver it with. I played Slanesh against it, and it was just that was a nothing. It was just like I got the funniest situation did happen. Mind if I tell a quick story in the middle of the news section?
Of course. I mean, we are talking about Warhammer, so
I'll tell a quick story about Soulblight. So I I waited until Neffy didn't have her spell on herself, and then managed to get multiple units into her with my Slanesh, just from downtown long bomb.
Yep.
So this is Pretenders, super souped keeper. I don't play shooty Slanesh, of course. Sure. I have no shots in the whole army, and so I just throw a bunch of stuff at her. She doesn't have her thing on her, right? And she's been locked out of using command abilities as well. Like I managed to get Subvert off on her. Okay, she can't use any command abilities, so she's pretty stuck. Okay. And I get, like, let's say I get, I think, 10 wounds on her. I let her attack first. All right. Shrug it off. But one wound gets through. What one wound gets through, Tom?
The dagger, of course.
Correct. One wound from the dagger gets through. I then put like 10 or 11 wounds on her. So she's almost dead. She's not going to get a chance to heal. Okay?
Sure. Yep.
And then we come to the end of the combat phase, and the one wound on my general, which in Pretenders is everything. Your general's everything. My general's like soup to heck and back to be protected, right? He's like, well, I get a roll a die. On a 5 up, you're dead. Rolls a die. 5. I'm dead. I'm like, okay, well, that's... I think you're going to win this game. It was already way in your favor. And I was just like, yep, that's fine. Pick her up. It's like, of course. Of course, that too. Why not that too? Yeah. So just the funniest thing to be on top of all those other rules. Anyways. So yeah, that's the FAQ. Good stuff overall. Okay, what's next in the news?
That's a great question. Cities of Sigmar. How about those models? Those new models. Those were sexy.
Yeah, let's go back to that. So here we go. We got our new guy, our new sort of free guild general, and his adjutant, I assume, which will now be not anything you choose, but rather this little boy right here. As somebody pointed out, Hank and Bobby Hill over here. So that, yep, that checks out for me. He's got a zombie head, and you've got a guy with a big hammer. And then you also have alternate ways to build him. There he is with sword and shield. And there he is with 2 guns. He's got 2 guns, 1 for each of you. So, yeah, guy's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw him and I was like, these guys look fun.
Sure. Some people are really enamored of them. I looked at it and I was like, that's fine.
Yeah. Like, I don't think that they're like Rockstar, right?
Yeah.
But they have the vibe. This is going to be a really weird call out to me. They have the vibe of the Forge World resin soldiers.
Okay.
Like some of the heroes on foot from the Forge World resin stuff had kind of a very similar design. Obviously they were bound to, like, I think Nulnheim maybe or something. Sure. But yeah, I mean they look great. Looks, obviously we have some head swaps. Obviously we have some alt weapons.
Yeah, somebody said hand cannons. They do very much look like little tiny cannons. Yes, you're not wrong. Yeah, different head swaps, different weapons. It's cool. I like good stuff. I think they look neat. He looks like a fun fantasy guy. Somebody in the chat said, who said this? Manny, still cool, but they look like a D&D character basically. I can't disagree with that. They do look like your
Yep.
Your 3rd or 4th level D&D character. This is what they look like. Here we are. So, that's fine. And yes, I don't want to crap on anybody who just wants sort of basic humans. That's fine. It does nothing for me.
It's curious to me.
For others, cool.
Why we didn't, I mean, like, obviously they would probably want this reflected in the rules, but it's curious to me why they didn't have, like, other race heads.
Oh, like have an elf head or something?
Right. Like, if there is this mixed character about them, like, I recognize keywords and other stuff, but, like, it just makes me wonder, like, it seems like a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, it would be cool if we didn't have to worry about those keywords at all, but at the same time we will, because I'm sure that there will still be some mixed action in cities. And and there will still be like power pair type stuff going on, I'm sure, where the dwarf lord cares about the dwarves and the elf person cares about the elves, and so on and so forth.
Of course, we'll see something like that. Yep.
Well, since you're over here screwing up old world names,
Whatever.
It's
Old
fine.
old world, generic old world place.
Yes, indeed. Let's go to the next story,
Yep.
which is the old world story. Which is, here are your core factions. There are 9 factions, Tom, for the launch of the old world. We got that confirmed this week.
That's fine.
The
Whatever.
Empire, Dwarves, Bretonnians, Wood Elves, High Elves, Orc and Goblins, Chaos Warriors, Beastmen, and Tomb Kings. No Skaven, no Vampires, no Dark Elves, no Demons of Chaos, and so on and so forth.
Did you say, for Empire, will we have different, like, cities or region or city specific stuff?
Yes. There. I mean,
So we'll still
you're
be,
asking
like,
where those
bears
Kislevites went? Is that what you're saying?
Like, right. Like,
Yeah.
and looking at this, I'm like, man, where's my Kislev? Like, if we're gonna do this, I want my.
Yeah, this is a time of civil war, for lack of a better term, I suppose, within the Empire of Man, as it were. They did mention that those armies that are not the core supported factions will get a launch PDF.
Sure.
So, like,
let's see how that goes.
That'll be good for 5 minutes, but I mean, I've seen a lot of people dipping a lot of hopium onto that. Thank you. No, Seraphon. And they talk about, well, this is what's going on in the world at that point in time, and all these other races have turned.
Well, not only no Seraphon,
busy with
no Skaven. Can we talk about that?
This is the period where the Great Skaven Civil War happens, and so basically Skaven weren't seen on the surface world for about a century, and this is where the whole Skaven are a myth thing comes from. First of all, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I always thought that was dumb. Okay, like, if lots of things haven't been seen in the world, I haven't seen things in my entire life, I don't think they're a myth. I just saw a kangaroo for the first time, like, a few years ago. I didn't think they were a myth up until I was 40 years old, right? So just, like, whatever. It's so dumb. But anyways, they're all off doing other things, is the short answer. Okay, they were.
Which, like, I respect.
Nuki returned to his home planet. That's it. That's the end of it.
Sure, like, I respect them wanting to keep it tight, right? Like,
sure. They're already not releasing new kits for everything, so there's just, like, a smattering of new kits around here. And they showed pictures of the models on squares, and I didn't pull the picture because I didn't want to be mean, but it was like the old Wood Elf War Dancers along with the old Tree Man, and I was like, I mean,
move, Cotton.
You had the choice of any picture. They could have shown anything, right?
They could have done Phoenix Guard on squares.
Anything. They could have done anything, and they picked that. And I was like, oh boy. If this is where we're going.
This is what you want. Just tap that nostalgia vein. Let's go.
I have,
old models galore.
As I've said many times, I have basically no sense of nostalgia. Things are either good or bad. And so,
well, the reason, what strikes me is this, like, stuff like Orc and Goblin tribes, Warriors of Chaos, like, they have model ranges for that. Like, not a lot. Like some will need to be designed for that, right? But those are going to be supplementary stuff. Tomb Kings, Bretonnians, Wood Elves, High Elves, like, a lot of that's just going to be fresh. Like, those are going to have to be new sculpts. Like,
they've already talked about re-releasing the Knights of the Realm, Tom. The circa 2002 plastics.
I am aware.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, I'll be interested to see what the new stuff is.
Don't do this to me.
I understand. Yeah. Obviously, stuff like the Kislevites stuff should be pretty awesome. I'm interested to see. I just putting so many of those other armies into PDF Legends form, where it's like, yeah, here's your starter thing, and as soon as you have books, they'll basically be outdated. Is not great. I mean, hopefully the game has enough traction that they want to bring in those other factions or advance the timeline or introduce those things, which is fine. They always will have the ability to do that. But man, No,
Do you
no
think
picture they showed so far got me excited at all.
Do you think they'll actually do a full like true relaunch, re-release of Mordheim when the old world drops?
Yes,
Like, do you think that that'll be
a
the
year
like the
after.
supplement game?
A year after.
Yeah, like that'll be their supplement game.
Yeah.
Like Warcry.
Mm-hmm.
I hope so.
I mean,
Like, I hope they don't like revamp it or like revisit it. Like, I hope they do because when they relaunched Kill Team, like that was or Necromunda, like that they let Necromunda be Necromunda, right?
more or
Like
less be the game. Yeah, it's not exactly what was printed in the 90s, but it's pretty close.
I hope they're
Like
like,
it's
you know what, this is good enough.
It's close enough. Necromunda people were like, yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Like again, it was mostly cleanup.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Sure.
That you heard it here first, folks. Start building your tables.
Yeah, I would love to see a Mordheim relaunch a year after this comes. Like that would excite me more than anything I'm seeing on this screen right here. It's like,
I agree with that.
100%.
Like I want nothing more than to like build just a redonkulous, mobile, flexible Mordheim table and paint a bunch of those old ass, like not the old models, but you know what I'm saying, like the older style models.
Sure.
Yeah, get some nice witch hunters out there. It'd be great.
So, yeah. But anyways, that's the old world. We still don't know when. We still don't know when this is. And by the way, Greasy Panham, very funny name. I don't know about that, man. My money is on the like this. Seeing that the Dark Elves weren't in here, made me think that Dark Elves are going to stay in cities. I think the Dark Elves will stay as like because we have no Malekith or whatever yet. You know, we have no Malarian, I should say. There it tells me they want to still keep those guys in the world. And so I think those will absolutely still be part of cities as far as like
maybe it could also be like the Great Betrayal, right? Like that they could stay for this edition.
Do that in the story.
Then,
in this edition. Yeah.
Like in third, they're still there. In fourth, when the new box drops, you can, and when the book finally drops, you can like pull them out. And maybe they do a dual release with like Malarians, Army, and Cities. Drop the books at the same time and pull Dark Elves out at the same time. Like all that, like narratively, they could work all that out.
Yeah. Anthony Ferry, what a complicated question. The short answer is, I could give the snarky answer, but the short answer is we don't really know because the old world isn't a game yet. It's not anything yet, other than it's a square-based rank and flank game. So in that way, it's a lot different. You have 6 game pieces effectively, or 7 or 8 game pieces, as opposed to potentially 50 or 100 as what you do in AOS. But because of the nature, you're just actually moving around a block that represents this thing.
I mean, you have more models, but those models are functioning as a single unit.
Yeah, they're a single game piece.
They're just a wounds counter that are being pulled off.
Yeah, they're just a single game piece. Like it's a rank and flank is just a much less fluid experience as far as like the dynamism of the thing. That's not a judgment. That's just
like angles and stuff.
But we don't know because we don't know the rules. All right. Anyways, there you go. That's the news. Let's get on to other stuff. Because boy, did we spend too long on this. Let's talk about some pick of the week. Tom, what would you like to share with everybody? Okay, go ahead.
I am going to promote my local club, which has been so it's a bunch of dudes here in Lexington.
Okay.
And Clay has been running events for us. They have the club name Actual Trash. So they have been around. They won the teams event at Adepticon this year. And they've been running RTTs regularly for a while, and so I would just encourage you all. I think the next one's going to be in July. So for those that are on, BCP, go check them out. You can find the event, register for it. I've done some stuff with them, and we're hoping to maybe do something more longer and organized next year. So that's what I'll say.
Nice.
So if you're in driving distance, come check it out.
Lexington, Kentucky. Yes, indeed. All right. Myself, Hey, guess what? Our buddy 2 Plus Tough, Doug, the man, the myth, the legend, the nicest man in wargaming. He's back making lore videos again, and he's loaded up a doozy. So if you're curious about AOS lore and you want to start at the most important central figure of the entire game, guess what? His new video on Sigmar went up today. You can find that linked down below. And so that'll have everything you need to know to get you going on who is this? It's the age of this guy. Who is this guy? That's Sigmar. He does connect back to the old world as well, because that's, turns out he's a real old guy. Just super old. GW loves telling stories about like central dad figures that are really old.
And absent.
And absent, yeah. Somebody had a real dad problem, I think, in the original story creation. Okay. So, check it out. Linked below. Good stuff. Let's talk about some hobby time. Tom, what have you been working on, buddy? Have you returned to any hobbying?
I put floor together for 4 hours today.
Okay. Did you paint a model? Have you put together a model?
I painted a wall. Does that count?
Nope.
That doesn't count. I ordered some things. Does buying count?
But was it like actual hobby stuff?
Yeah. I sent an order into Landmine today.
Okay. All right. Well, for now, that'll count. Yes.
Sweet. Buying things. You heard it here first. Buying things, definitely a part of the hobby.
Well, it is a part of the hobby, yes. Okay, that's fine. That's something. For myself, I finished up whatever I was working on last week. I don't remember which one I shared. I think probably the bust. But I started working on this girl, which is Morgana Le Fay from Mineworks. And I'm really excited about this one. She's like, these are just so much fun. As I said, I've been having a grand old time. And so there you go. There she is. And Morgana's super cool. And I just like how she's coming together. Again, just playing around with fun skin tones and lighting and reflections and stuff. And so here, obviously, we're going to have her, sort of stepping into a big pool of liquid. So we're going to have some of that cast water reflection and stuff. So yeah, good times overall. She's still very early doors, really just starting out with her. That's only a little bit of work, maybe an hour and a half of work, but yeah, she's coming together. So good stuff. Lot longer to go on there. But yeah, Mineworks, check them out if you like that kind of stuff. This is based on a Brahm piece of art, so super cool. Oh yes, Alex and Josh said, "What did you actually get, Tom?" Yeah, they want to know if you're buying, what did you buy?
It's a secret, but it may be related to dead things.
Okay, I see. All right, fair enough. I'm glad you're back on the dead people train again. All right. Well, with that, let's jump into the main topic for the evening, shall we? Which is AOS 4.0 Wishlist. Let's bring it up. Here we go. Ba-boom. There we go. So, given the 3-year cycle, we fully expect Age of Sigmar 4.0 in summer 2024. This is the cycle we've been on since the launch of both 8th edition 40k and Age of Sigmar. And so we fully expect that trend to continue. No, there's been no reason to believe it would be anything else. I suppose anything's possible, but for now, we're going to assume it's the case. And given how they work, the team is likely finalizing things for AOS 4.0 right now. So we're going to give them our best hopes and dreams and wishes and things like that. By the way, I want to shout out Paul Conti in particular, who in a recent video took a shot at me for reading my slides too granularly. First of all, Paul, it's not for you to tell me how to do a presentation. Okay? Don't cite the deep magic to me. All right? I do more presentations in a week, Paul, than you've done in the past 4 years. Okay? Now, number 2, there are boardroom and ballroom presentations. Some are meant to be read, quite specifically. Some are meant to be visual references only. I tend to treat these more like a boardroom presentation than like a ballroom one, because I want to make sure people who aren't watching still can know what is on my slide, Paul, because a lot of people are hopefully hobbying or driving or doing those sorts of things.
We're inviting people into the boardroom,
That's
into
right.
the inner sanctum.
Yes. Now,
to receive wisdom and insight.
Yeah, that's something like that. Sure. Okay. So this is basically everything that we want to see, things that we would add or remove. We can cut from whole cloth, create new things here. It's all a wish list. There's no insight here. None of this is actually loaded. Obviously. Okay. And I've purposely left some things off of this to foster some discussion, but I want to hear you in the chat as well. That is to say, I'd like to hear what you all have to say. So make sure you're commenting. And while you're commenting, if you're typing on your keyboard, you're just like your hand must be near your mouse. Why not hit like and subscribe too? It's so easy. You're already right there. They just go ahead and do it. Or hit that like button. All right, Tom, are you prepared?
Of course, I'm always ready.
All right, then let us begin. Here we go. Okay. We're going to start with the launch box. We got to have a launch box for the edition, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Here's my pitch for the launch box, Tom. This one's just.
It better not be my exact pitch, but go ahead.
Well, I sent you this presentation 10 hours ago, so I don't know what yours says.
You know I don't look at those things. Continue.
Sure. My launch box pitch is Skaven versus cities. Let me explain.
I hate you so much. Continue.
Okay. Skaven need a complete redesign. This we know. Yeah?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Cities will be basically a year into its life at that point. One of the things they love to do when they relaunch a whole line is come about a year later behind that and put additional models into the range. Well, they've done it with Sisters. Yeah. They did it with Lumineth, like Sisters of Battle in 40K. They did it with Lumineth. They've done it with Space Marines. They love this crap. Okay.
Yep.
Because they just generally can't sculpt everything they want to for a full relaunch, right? At the time of the actual launch of the faction. So what this would let them do is do a full redesign on Skaven. Long overdue. I mean, of course, a couple kits can stay. Like Thankful will still get inherited in, and Storm Fiends and stuff like that will get inherited in. You know what I mean? Like much like the Necron redesign of, I guess, 8th edition.
Like, and I could even see like the Plague Claw Catapult and the cannon. Like some of those kits, they hold up. They just do, right?
Maybe.
Like,
I think they're pretty bad, but it's fine. They're fine for what they are. Like I'm not gonna lose sleep over not remaking them, if that's your point. But then clearly the troops, the Plague Monks, the Rat Ogres. What new Skaven machines do we have? Let's get some new. Yeah. I want new Molder monstrosities. I want new Scryer machines of war, right? I want new Eshin ninja assassins. Okay. And I think the 4th go-round, we can finally not have Stormcast in the box.
You know what I'm going to push back on? Stormcast will be on the box, and it'll be a single unit, which is part of the cities.
That'd be fine.
Like,
again...
You know, like cities can do 1 in 4 units of Stormcast. They're going to be in the box. And
technically, in that picture that I chose, there is some Stormcast, as you can see, over on the side amongst all the cities people. Yes.
This is why, by the way, I actually think that this is what they'll do, is because they can still put Stormcast in the box. Like, that's the key. Like, to me, that's what actually sells this. Sure. Is that they can put Stormcast in the box with a bunch of new city stuff. Yeah,
well, and that's just it. It wouldn't have to be all new city stuff either, right?
Right.
It could be, here's your core stuff. That's the stuff from the previous launch, or from the year ago, which they wouldn't have to be, like, because it could just be completely new on both sides, and that'd be fine too. Or it could be, here's the X new cities unit and 1 new Stormcast unit, so they feel like they're still part of this and there's continuity, right?
Right.
But to me, this is the launch box. It switches the focus. It does so many amazing things. I think people would buy the heck out of this box.
Yes. I mean, I would buy so many.
Sure.
So many. Because I'm already in for cities. Like, cities has my attention. And I was stupid enough to buy a bunch of the Skaven boxes. What did they pair with last year? Something. I bought like 3 of them, so I have like 60 clan rats and 30.
Sure.
I just have all the rats right now, and so like something like this, which is likely. You said the Scryer. So here's my twist on this. I think you're mostly right.
Okay.
But Launchbox will actually be heavy clan Eshin.
Because we'll go to Shadow
We'll
Realm.
go.
Yeah.
Because so here's my theory.
That's fine, by the way. I don't care. I just want the refreshed range. I don't care who's in the launch box. And if the launch box was full of ninja assassin rats, I don't think anybody's going to say no.
We're talking about launch box right now.
100%. Hundo P.
And so the launch box, they are going to want to sell as many as possible, and you don't get cooler than ninja rats, right?
No, so that's one so far.
We know in the past, like, yes, GW doesn't always do things the same way, but there are patterns, and we can see some of those patterns. Mm-hmm. One of those patterns that is relevant is that in prior releases of that game that nobody plays, Underworlds, they would release an Underworlds, and then the next like go around for the actual launch was set in that realm. So I think of like Beastgrave, and then the next time we dropped, we were in Gur, right?
Yeah, sure.
Like the Hollow Morn or whatever the city that we're currently in is in Ulgu. Sure. And I think that that's relevant, right? It wouldn't surprise me if that's actually the setting of that underground port city being the setting of as it being like a city, right? It being, part of the, the crusade. You have the establishment of these cities of Sigmar, and then, oh, look, ninja rats jump out of the darkness. And then that's also why it will set the stage for Malarian, because we know he's in Ulgu as well. And so,
and then that could be the new army of 4.0.
And that's the new army of 4.0. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I think that it all just makes sense. And yes, there will still be a Stormcast in the box.
It still lets them make one new Stormcast unit to
or not new, right? Sure. Like they have a bunch of push to fits that make their way in,
sure.
Right?
Yep. I mean, this feels like the right launch box to me for 4.0. This is like wishlisting in the truest sense, because who knows? This isn't like a rules based thing or something.
But it's chaos again. Like it keeps chaos and because we've cycled through for.
But it rotates us away from the dark gods. Still, it keeps them out of the focus.
We did chaos, death, destruction.
Yeah.
And now we're back to chaos, but it keeps the dark gods out of the main box. Right?
Well, and I would argue it carries on with the current theme, which is expansion, because as they expand, then we can still bring chaos back into focus as the enemy. But it's the sort of enemy within, chaos from below, yada yada yada. Skaven sabotaging the cities and stuff like that. Like it's an interesting way. It's not the marauding hordes of Khorne or something like that, just trying to run across the plains like lunatics and threatening to wipe them out. Instead, it's the doom tolling over these individual cities that have been set up and stuff like that.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Agreed.
So yeah, I mean, to me, going to Ulgu, getting a launch box that's Skaven, and again, I would love an Eshin focused launch box. I have no problem with that, and I would love it if there are all new models of this type. It would let them build on the city's release, like I said, about a year after. Like, to me, the math of this just lines up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
To feel
and it
like
lets them do a second cities push, right?
Yep. Exactly. Which again, they love doing that. So, yeah, there you go. Like, yeah, great. Fine. It would mean that cities would have one of the last books of 3.0 and one of the first books of 4.0. That would be a weird thing that would happen as a result of this, but who cares?
Well, we've done this before.
Right. It's not.
See Lumineth, right? Like
exactly. That's not. Yeah. That's not unprecedented in some way that they wouldn't like. If the rest of the idea is really good, everybody's got to get a new box, a new book eventually. So whatever, right? Like, fine. Who cares?
Yep.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. So that's Launchbox. Right on. All right, we're in alignment here. Let's see it, GW. All right, let's talk about core rule changes.
Yep.
All right. So, I'm going to timestamp this. Okay. Core rule changes. I just got this sort of a grab bag of different things. These aren't in any kind of priority order.
Sure.
They're just in the order that I thought of them. Heroic actions and monstrous rampage changes. I really, really hate the way monstrous rampages are structured right now.
Yep.
I hate that they're at the end of the charge phase. Okay.
Okay.
Because there is nothing to remind you to do that.
Sure.
Start of phase transitions are a lot easier to remember than end of phase transitions.
Yep.
And so I would really just like to see monstrous rampages moved to, this is such a small change, but moved to happen at the start of the combat phase.
Yeah, there's a lot that's happening at the start, but I hear you.
Not really, because again, we have the cleanup now where this is happening before ASF. Okay, like these kinds of things definitely happen before you fight of any type. You resolve all start of combat abilities. Then you go into the various and sundry fightings.
Yep.
And I just think it would be a better trigger to remember it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
But really what I want is the dice rolling gate for this stuff to change. What I would like is for...
So can I pitch a different idea to you on Monster Train?
Yeah, go for it, man. Sure, I'm okay. You can strip this to the studs instead, but go for it.
No, you may hate it, but let me just throw another possible idea.
Okay.
When the monster activates.
Oh, they do their thing.
That's when the monster activates.
Sure.
Right? Rather having out of phase action, right? Sure. Out of activation action, this just becomes baked into a combat activation.
Sure. Yeah, it's interesting. The obviously there's other timing considerations with that. It makes the ability significantly weaker.
It does.
Right.
It does. But it also moves it back to when they're supposed to be doing things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Don't worry, rule of cool. We'll get to that one. That's a big one on my list. That's an item for later on.
Yep.
Okay. I love seeing all these ideas because don't worry, we're gonna hit a lot of these.
Yep.
Okay. Let me talk about the dice rolling gate and why it's bad.
Yep.
For a lot of the monstrous rampages, the way it works is you pick the thing you want to do, and then you sit there and agonize over the choice, and then you roll some variant of dice. 2 up, 3 up, automatic, whatever. Okay?
Yep.
I would like them to be like, you roll a die, period.
And if you roll a 3+,
then you pick a monstrous rampage to do. By the way, you can do the same thing for heroic actions. And rebalance them all around that thing. So that the first thing you do is check the gate. Do I do this thing or not? And by the way, I would rather heroic actions not sit behind dice. I would rather they just happen. So balance them accordingly. Okay?
Yep. Because
they have a very tight opportunity cost. You get to do one and only one. I mean, army specific weirdos aside, right? Whereas monstrous rampages you get to do with all your monsters, right?
Yep.
And so I would much rather, like, if there's going to be something that's behind a dice, either get rid of the dice completely and you pick a thing and you do it. I'm fine with that. Just balance them accordingly. Okay? Or make it so I roll the die, it's a 3 up, I pick a thing to do.
Yeah, it just needs to be systematized. The right answer is that they need to have a more... Because what you're doing is you're reducing memory load.
Yes.
In your actual play.
This one's a 2 up, this one's a 3 up, this one checks bravery, this one's on a 4 up, but only on Tuesday. And it's just like, no. Stop all that nonsense. Okay? Just design them within a set curve where this is the trigger. Yep. And then the individual armies, if they want to have more or less powerful ones, are fine.
Yep. It's stop, go back to the drawing board. Do it again.
Yeah, and you can evolve conceptually what we have into something appropriate. Like if Roar is the baseline, then just make everything like Roar, right? And put it all behind a 3-up gate.
Yep.
If Titanic Duel is the baseline, then make them all like Titanic Duel and make them automatic.
Yeah.
Right? I don't care what baseline you pick. Just pick one. And then either make them all a single dice or go.
Which inevitably means that you'll need to rebalance like any of the battle tome ones. Like that is
Sure.
just a consequence of this, but
Sure.
that's just something that will persist for the season until it gets updated.
Yep. And so, like, these things are, as is being discussed in the comments right now, like, these things are cognitive load, right? They are memory. The number of times where, like, my regular opponents I often play with will be like, I'm going to stomp. Which one is that on? Is that on the 2-up or the 3-up? These are people who've played Warhammer 3rd edition many games, dozens and dozens of games. Okay?
Yes, weekly.
And that's just because they're not that emotionally invested in the game, right? They play because it's fun. It's fun time, right? And so just putting this thing either behind no dice or a single die, and it's always this, either one removes that. Because then they know just, oh yeah, okay, I do the thing, I either got the 3-up or didn't. When it's a set, static function, it vastly reduces cognitive load. Even minor variance has an exponential weight on people's mental load.
It would be great if they did that as well for heroic actions.
Yeah,
like
sure.
No more roll to see if you can do this.
Agreed.
Either you automatically do it or everything has to trigger a roll.
100% agreed. Yes. I think heroic actions are the same boat. And again, I would be fine I would love it if we could bring them all onto the same system, right? In some way. But if we're going to keep the distinction that heroic actions are one of and monstrous actions are one each, if that's how we're going to do it, which fine, if that's what we're going to do.
It's fine.
Then like, I would still much rather we just put them all behind the same dice gate. Like, if they're all on a 3-up, just make them all accordingly powerful. Like, use Roar as the baseline and make sure everything is looks like Roar. Done.
Yep.
And then monsters have a purpose and heroes have a purpose and stuff like that. Okay.
Gareth, I love that you acknowledge that.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. Yes.
No, there isn't. And it's easy, but it just shows that like we have so many other things going on.
Yes.
That oftentimes it's just easy to slip, even for those that are playing.
Do you know how many times I forget my monstrous rampages because of the timing issue? Because you want to get into combat. It's not only is it happening at the end of a phase, which is the worst time to remember anything, it's also happening right before the most exciting thing you do in the game, which is I'm going to pick a unit to fight for the first time in the combat phase. This is what I want to do. This is why I play Warhammer. Everybody's excited to go do that thing.
I want to go punch somebody in the face, right?
Right.
That's what you're excited to do, and now you have to stop and be like, wait, I'm going to stomp on you.
Jake, definitely not. No, because then that's just more complexity. I definitely don't. Like, does it suck to get roared? Sure, but it's fine. Like, okay. It's just, that's life, you know? If roar is too strong, then move them all down. And don't have something as powerful as roar. That's the answer. That kind of additional back and forth, no. More dice rolling for no purpose? No, definitely not. That's bad. Very bad. But yes, as Assistant Ref said, let me count the times I've spent 5 minutes agonizing on a stomp versus roar and then just rolled a 1. Exactly. That's why you put the dice roll first. It's just like the most obvious thing. Okay. So there's that. I wanted to start with just a minor item because that's real in the weeds, but it's I think it's impactful.
It's a quality of life change, right?
Yep.
Like this is what editions are supposed to do: is streamline, to cut, and to tighten. Right? Like like ideally you want to make a cleaner system.
And cut is really important.
Yes.
Cut is the step we often don't take, and that's how we get to bloat that then causes us to need to blow the whole house up and rebuild.
Right.
So we're going to talk, there's going to be plenty of cuts here. Battle tactics. Speaking of cuts, battle tactics, out of the base game. Booted, gone. They're into battle packs only, and they still exist. I'm not getting rid of battle tactics. Don't worry, battle tactics lovers. They still exist. They just live in battle packs only. So some battle packs will have battle tactics. For example, the GHB, which we'll talk about later. Okay? And its event-based battle pack will absolutely have battle tactics in it. 100%.
Or it might not. Or there might be one that's an event-based one design that doesn't have that. And that can be okay too.
Right? And so, but we can have other battle packs that don't have it in it. But the base game does not have to assume a battle tactic. The base game assumes the primary loop, which is objectives and holding objectives and fighting. That's the primary loop.
We can just shoot battle tactics in the face.
We're not going to go that far. They have a lot of value.
Which I would be okay with. We can just jettison them. We don't need them.
Yeah.
Don't lie to yourself. We don't need them.
We could redesign them in 20 million ways, and I would be okay with that as well. But
do you know when the perfect time to do that is?
Add an edition change, and that's fine. I'm okay with all of that. You're right. But a secondary objective system as part of a competitive battle pack absolutely makes sense. It's useful for useful for a load of different things. It's good skill testing, it's good score separation. Like, secondary objectives in competitive event-based battle packs should be there. Do they have to be exactly the battle tactics we have now? No. They could take it. We're going to call them battle tactics, Tom, whatever form they have, because we've picked that name.
I'm okay saying that we have secondary objectives.
Yeah.
I am not okay saying that battle tactics, as currently implemented, just make their way. They migrate to battle packs, because no, I would be okay just shooting them in the face.
I understand,
because and we've done the show before, right? But it creates reiterative, same like cycle repetition gameplay.
I get it.
And that is boring. The worst thing it can be is boring.
I would love to see battle tactics explored in 20 different ways in the new edition. Like, we have done whole shows on this, right? They could become schemes. And even people who don't like battle tactics now are saying throw them into the sun. You could very much like what they would become under certain conditions, right? If they became like a hidden scheme, if they became battle plan dependent, where the battle plan itself generated the thing, right? Like, there's all sorts of options for what could be done here. Okay. And you could just
keep the name. I'm fine keeping the name. I'll allow it. The only challenge with keeping the name, though, is that we're dealing with battle tomes that will carry into the new world that will have that same name. And so if they change dramatically,
or we just don't have book specific battle tactics anymore in 4.0, which is also what we shouldn't have.
But we're still gonna have the hangers on until we update the new, right?
I mean, not if you switch the system.
I would be okay if all the FAQs come out day one and it's like, ignore X page in your book.
Yeah.
That's great. I'm okay with that, GW. Make it happen. You can do that for both battle tactics and battalions.
Sure. Well, we'll talk about battalions in a moment, because those are also on my hit list here. My point is, we've got to do something with it. There's a lot of frustration, I think, out there with battle tactics as they are. They just don't work for everyone, and we have to accept that. I know that there's a lot of people who love them. Some of those people are probably GW designers. I get it. I really do. And I think they do have value in some form. It doesn't have to be exactly this form. Okay? Yeah. But, like, a secondary objective system is still very important and valuable. And there's no reason we can't just, like, have a new system and then just say, hey, remember all those things that are in your book? Nope, those don't work anymore. As Gareth just pointed out, what they did with War Scroll battalions in the changeover into 3.0, right? Like, jettisoned all those into the sun, and we were fine, right? Okay, great.
We know how to do that. Let's do that again.
Right. So we, like, at the changeover, we can make, but nonetheless, whatever they are, they should not be part of the base game. Like, the core rules and whatever basic battle pack comes with that, they should not be assumed. Okay.
Sure. Yep, I agree with that.
Okay. George Sutherland. Hey, what's up, George? Hope you're doing well, brother. Hey, Vince, related to battalions, what about enhancements? Well, George, I'm glad you asked. Let's talk about the enhancement cleanup. First of all, section 27, we're going to rewrite basically this whole section because it's incomprehensible to a new player right now.
It's a mess.
So, like, that's number one. But number two, we're going to actually make some interesting artifacts and command traits that people want to take that open up new avenues of play and things like that without being auto picks. Can that be done? Yes. Yes, it can. Is that a high bar? Absolutely. Am I saying it's easy? No. No, it's not. but this is the most important thing you're going to make. So invest the time. This is a foundational element. Okay. So we're going to clean up this section. And we're going to make things that are, first of all, we're going to make this section comprehensible. That says, like, you get these things. Here's how it works in your army. Your general will pick one of these. You get to assign one of these things to a hero. Every wizard gets one of these, right? Like, it's going to be very Okay. And we're going to make sure the choices are relatively even and interesting. And they're going to be like playstyle-ish focused in broad-based ways. Okay. And there you go. Like, do I have exactly what the answers to what those things should be are? No. No, I don't. But that's not like it's going to... No one person does. No one designer or anything. People should write a list, and then they should be playtested to high heck and back and given out for feedback to playtesters and things like that, who then work their way through a process of design, development, and UAT into a clean, tight set. That's what should be done. Okay. And so, you know, yes, Frogom said, how do enhancement work is absolutely the most common new player question. I agree. People, like, this happens all the time, right? I get this question so often. And I just think we could write that section better if we're going to have this generic enhancement system, which I don't even know if we need. It could just as easily be like, your general gets a command trait, you get an artifact, you get to pick, assign one artifact to a hero, and then, you know, blah, 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 so on and so forth, right? But if you want to keep the enhancement thing, fine, we can. We just have to clean up that section. Okay. Any, I mean, this one feels very, like, straightforward, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I agree. Give me a flow chart. Give me a pictogram. Yeah, absolutely. Just like a written example. Okay. Fine. Good. That one's just more like we would like to see that. Tom, do you have any thoughts on items or command traits that should be generic? Do we want to take a swing at any of those?
Items or command traits
that should be in the generic set.
I don't know. Probably not 5-up wards.
Well, I don't know if we're going to keep all the ward cutting through. I think it might be fine, but yeah,
sure.
You know.
I mean, unless you're putting like a wound cap on it, or like a keyword restriction, no monsters or whatever.
Sure.
I don't know. I just like, I know obviously you're fishing for something like Arcane Tome or whatever, and
I'm not fishing for anything over here.
You know, like I think that there is a value to generic art. I really do.
I agree.
They just need to be good, and they need to be competitive, or they probably need to be less competitive than Battle Tome artifacts. But that just means Battle Tome artifacts need to be written well. That's the right answer.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is actually a pretty simple set of things. You ready? Okay.
Sure.
I'm gonna give you my 4. Tell me what you think of these. You ready, Tom? Here's my 4.
Yep.
5-up ward, but it can't go on a hero with more than... I can't go on a whatever they call the big hero, the 10 wound plus hero. So 9 wounds or less only.
Yep.
Okay.
Sure.
That's number 1.
Sure.
Number 2, wizard book only works on non-wizards. Doesn't do anything for existing wizards. Okay. And but it's a wizard book. Makes you a wizard. I'll even let you pick a spell.
Are you even set from your sub-faction?
Yeah, from your sub-faction, sure, you can get a spell. You're a wizard now. You're a wizard, Ari. Congratulations. It's better than the current Arcane Tome, but worse than the old version. Yeah, I understand.
Sure. Yep.
Okay. Still not as good as the old version because it doesn't add anything to existing wizards. It's there for armies that don't have wizards. Still can't go on a corn person.
Right.
Suck it. Okay. The Holy Scriptures. Become a priest. Get a prayer. Okay. And like the sort of real scariness.
Hit you harder.
The The sword have hit you harder, +1 to wound and +1 damage.
That's pretty strong, but okay.
Sure. Maybe there's a limitation on it, like you can't have a mount or something. I don't know. Whatever. There you go.
Yeah. So one defensive, 1 hitty, and 2 utility.
Yeah. 2 opening up additional things your army might not have that could end up being relevant to stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. The synergy stuff. Yep.
There you go.
That sounds interesting to me.
Sure. There you go. Like the damage combat-y one is automatically going to be worse than the utility things unless it's pretty good. So that's why I was hesitant on putting a restriction on it, because I'm not sure I really care if they even put it on like some mounted destroyer guy and give him +1 wound and damage. Like, okay, cool. On like one weapon, all right. You know, what's the problem? Seems fine, even if it is on a monster. Like, great. Then we're playing Warhammer. You know what I mean? Right. Like, it's fine. Are those perfect? No, but that's where I'd start. Right?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, they don't need to be. They shouldn't be upending the world or like incredibly specific or wackadoo or anything like that. They should be pretty generic baseline stuff that's opening up particular builds and interesting avenues to play.
Right.
Something like that. Like, and they should just stay very simple. And simple Warpstone Destroyer is why I wouldn't do that. And I'm purposely staying away from the Rend because Rend is naturally more powerful. Like then you could become a problem. Right? Like I'm picking +1 to wound and +1 damage because a lot of heroes are already on 3s. It'll push them to 2s. If they're already on a 2, as big monster heroes often are, then it does nothing for them. Right? Like I was careful about my choices here and intentional. Right?
Yep.
But if they try to slam that hero into something with a decent armor save, they still just bounce because they are still stuck to whatever their normal rend is.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. At any rate, there's a list like that. That list is fine. I think people would choose different things on there. The second you put both wizard and priest on there, you'd get people choosing different things.
Correct.
Right away. So like, yeah, there you go. I would also love to see formalization of some language. So my example here is bodyguard and ward, but it's far from the only example. Please just, whatever the copy paste is you need in your rules text, can we please make it so, yeah, sure, call it the Sword of Striking. Yeah, that was the name of it, yes. Please make it so or Obsidian Blade. Wasn't that another one? I'm trying to remember my old generic artifacts out of the core, 6th, 7th, 8th book. But like, can we just make it standard that when you bodyguard, it replaces the ward and the other unit doesn't get a ward save in addition? Like these things all just work in a unified way.
Just make it default. Yeah. That'd be nice. Yeah, that'd be great.
Just stop making these things work differently when there's no need for them to work differently. Like if a unit has some reason to work specifically differently, like that's why I'm not saying here I want keyworded abilities. Yeah. Because I don't. Right? I don't want first strike or whatever.
Sure.
Right? I just want the language to be unified unless there's a good reason for it to be different.
Yeah.
Right? That's
I agree
all.
with that.
That's all. That feels very low bar-ish. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So now
low-hanging fruit.
Low-hanging fruit. Now let's move on to the next one. Here we go, Tom. Okay. Rewrite core battalions. CW, let me address this real quick. CW Kerner said, exception-based design, why is nothing the same? Yeah, sure. Well, because that's absolutely right. Because the beauty of exception-based design, and I know CW's being a bit flippant, I just want to answer this because it's an interesting tangent for a moment, is with exception-based design, you can do whatever you need. You can write whatever you need. If you need to make a unit different, you can do so. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Right? You can do this wonderful top-down design and make every unit feel like it should. But if you're going to give roughly or basically the same ability, then just do the same ability. Okay? Yep. I don't like USRs because USRs become very quickly worthless after you create about 10 of them. And there would be a lot more than 10 of them. US universal special rules, when you have 80 of them, as a game like this would have, are not universal special rules. They are hiding rules. That's it. They just hide rules. Because then I look at my war scroll and it says first strike, trample, whatever. I'm using magic keywords, but the point is that like that's what it says, and then there's no explanatory text. And so I have to go read somewhere else to figure out what this thing actually does. Right?
Yep.
And if you're going to print the whole text, then you don't need a universal special rule, which is what you should do. Like, USRs are just literally a bad step removed. Just write the text. Okay.
Ugh. Yeah. You
just make the text the same everywhere it should be. Rewrite core battalions. Let's do this. Here we go, Tom. We ready?
Yep.
We're gonna just like have 6 good battalions. Why do we have 3 right now that anybody takes and 3 that are complete and total trash? And by the way, it's a perfect pyramid. There's one at the top and it's called Battle Reg. Right? And then there are 2 below it that are Warlord and Command Entourage that are like, yeah, you take this if you don't care about being 1-drop.
Right.
You try to get 6 heroes in your list.
This is your alternate gift. Right. Like, this is what you get. This is your consolation prize. Right?
And then you have the 3 at the bottom of the pyramid of names I couldn't even tell you what they're called. Couldn't even tell you.
And they just do things that no one takes.
Correct. Because they don't do anything. Well, that's number 1. They don't actually do anything.
Right.
So that's a problem. I understand
give you a once-ish per game thing that sometimes gets used.
Right. What I want to see here is, first of all, we can keep unified as a concept. There's nothing wrong with unified as a concept. I think it's a very reasonable thing to put into a battalion. What we should not have written into the battalion is a unified battalion where you can actually fit your whole army into it.
Yes.
Right?
Correct. Unified should be a army reducing, like drop reducing option.
Right. Exactly. Where there's a slice of your army you can choose to fit into it, and maybe you could even double up, take it a couple times, and really knock your drops down. Now, but you're making choices to not get other actual benefits in favor of drops. You know, honestly, something like Warlord is a pretty good baseline to work off of right now. You can't fit your whole army in Warlord. It does give you an interesting set of bonuses. You get command point, bonus enhancement, right? Which is often an artifact, but not always.
Yeah.
Okay. That feels like the way the other 5 should look. If Bat Reg was rewritten so that you couldn't put your whole army into it, so it was, a bunch of troops and artillery and all the leaders you would want and so on and so forth, right?
Yep.
If it was like, if we took, what if we took Command Entourage? Okay, something like that.
Yeah.
And we made that the unified battalion. So you could take a bunch of single drop heroes, shove them into a single drop. You let 3 or 4 heroes pile into that thing. Okay?
Yeah.
Now that's doing something, right? You're making a choice of, do you go for the magic item? Do you go for the drops? Right? So as long as, I have no concern with that sort of concept existing. And sure, Warpstone, there'll always be, because the structure of some armies, there'll always be some that are ahead in the drop wars. There'll always be some that don't care. I've literally never thought at all about drops for my Skaven. Never once. Never will. It's irrelevant. And I disagree, Chase. I absolutely disagree. Chase says you're just setting up an infinite regress. Well, first of all, it's not infinite because there's literally a number where it could go to. So it's definitely not infinite, not to be a pedantic jerk. But he said, even if you can't fit your entire army in it, you'll be able to outdrop opponents as the functional new 1-drop. Will you? Will you? Let's imagine the only unified that exists is the thing I just mentioned. And it's required 2, maximum 4 heroes. That's the only unified that occurs in the list.
Right.
Okay? now your drops are that, first of all, most armies take between 2 and 4 heroes. Basically, every army does. Okay.
Yep.
So every army has a pretty equal shot to want to get at this thing.
Yep.
Okay. Now, if you also make the Warlord require 3 base heroes, okay,
Yep.
then all of a sudden you get to this point where now you're having to make some interesting choices because you can't fit maximum in the drops, but you also, if you go minimum, then you have 5 heroes at least and stuff like that, right?
Yep.
So those are the kind of thing, like, you could construct this house of cards so that you're making a real decision about
Sure.
what is worth it more to you. Getting down from 7 drops to 6, from 6 to 5, or 5 to 4. Maybe there is just some lowest number, sort of the best arm you could reach, and maybe that's 4 or 5 drops or something like that. Fine.
Sure.
But then opening up the world, being in between like 4 at the absolute lowest, and that's quite rare because somebody had to really cut to the bone, and 13 at the highest, or 14, or whatever the sort of outsized highest number of units armies take, like Nighthaunt or Skaven.
Right.
Now there's actually play in that space. Okay.
Yep.
And I completely disagree, Chase. I just absolutely disagree. Like, there's no reason it has to be that new thing. Because if those people want to go to the drops, one of the reasons that 1 drop has been used so much, Bat Reg has been used so much, is because there was just no other good battalions. If you look at Bat Reg usage over time, this is a tracked stat.
Yeah.
It drops like a rock when Bounty Hunters came out.
Yep.
Okay? Why? Was suddenly 1 drop bad? No. There was just a better choice. Or at least an equal choice. There was something else that actually competed with being at 1 drop. And so drops suddenly spiked way up. Like, the number of average drops in the meta at that time period. Say what you will about Bounty Hunters. The number of drops in the meta spiked way up.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So I know this is possible because history already proved it.
Right. That it can be written well.
Yeah. I mean, like, Bounty Hunters wasn't written well for a host of reasons, right? But we don't have to recreate Bounty Hunters. Like, we can make things that are trade-offs. Gareth says, I think explicit enhancements rather than any would be a better Warlord thing. This battalion gives you an extra spell. This one gives you an artifact. Sure, I could go for that. Absolutely. Right?
Yeah, I could do that.
So, like, there's certainly a world we could operate in here. Again, if Unified went away, I don't care. I wouldn't lose sleep over it. But I do think it's an interesting lever to pull. Right? But what I really want to see at the core here is, like, this is an interesting battalion that I can put some troops in, and it does something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It actually functionally does something. For that unit of troops. Something I want to have occur. And I just can't believe we couldn't find something that was valuable for that.
I mean, you'd think something would be out there, right?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Finally, Battle Shock change. I want to throw Battle Shock. I want to yeet it into the sun, Tom. I'm done with it.
Completely.
Yeah. I mentioned this last week. Everybody's been clamoring that, like, Battle Shock is, like, leadership means nothing and Battle Shock isn't a thing and blah, blah, blah forever.
Okay.
If it was, everybody would hate it. It would be the worst part of the game.
Right.
As somebody who plays, like, Skaven, where you're making Battle Shock tests all the time. Another fun thing that happens with new Soulblight is they have that spell that just does 1 mortal wound to every unit on the table.
Yeah.
Really fun when your whole army is Bravery 4 and 5. Let me tell you what. That's just a very fun spell.
It's amazing how that works. Yeah.
And you know what just super sucks is rolling a ton of Battle Shock tests. It's awful. Just pulling models for no reason that didn't get to do anything just sucks. Yeah, Skaven player hates Battle Shock. News at 10. Yeah, exactly. Right? And as yes, that's George and LNRDI. You're going exactly where I was going, which is, some version like New 40K where you can't contest objectives or something like that is a potential. Doesn't have to be that thing, but where the unit is diminished in some way. Okay. Like
Yep.
once they get under it, so the way it, the sort of they have like a half strength or number or something like that in
Yeah.
40K. I
Yeah.
don't know exactly. In the new one apparently. And so like you get under that thing, you start rolling a check. If you fail, I guess you can't contest objectives or something like that.
Sure.
Okay. And you capture differently or less, or I don't know. I don't know exactly. But you get the general concept, right?
It does something. Yes.
The unit doesn't just evaporate or disappear. They become diminished in some way.
Yeah.
But they're still there. They're still on the table. I don't know if objective, like zotting out objective capturing would be the right way to go. That's also very, very strong, right? And just like one bad dice roll means suddenly your unit of 30 people counts as 0 feels like maybe not the right way to go,
Seems problematic. Yep.
Right. But again, there's an answer. Yeah, there you go. Like Herald of Monway would be thematic if they could not receive commands. Sure, something like that, where suddenly they can't receive or issue commands anymore, right? Because they're sort of like they're shooken. They done been shook, Tom. Right? They're battle shooked. Right? Whatever. Right?
Yeah, I'm in for that. Yeah.
Yeah, like there's there's a lot that we could do with that space. That doesn't have to be exactly what 40K is doing, nor exactly what we do. I just know that like mass pulling models is dumb and sucks.
Yeah, nobody likes to do that.
Right. And the more things we introduce into the game with terror, and the more we show off inspiring presence, the more people get a taste of it over theoretically the next year. The more people are going to be like, oh wait, no, I actually hate this.
Yeah.
Like this is a monkey's paw if there ever was a wish, right? I wish Battleshock meant something, and the monkey paw curls, and it's like, not for my army. I meant for everybody else. I want other people to just randomly run and lose models, not me.
Yeah.
Right.
It's great until it happens to you, and you're like, man, this is very terrible.
Mm-hmm. 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 All right, so there you go.
Sure.
Anything else on these are all just core rule stuff.
No, I think those are all of those core changes to me just make sense.
Yeah. Good. All right. Let's keep going. Battle packs. Let's talk battle packs, Tom.
Always ready.
Okay. Battle packs.
Yep.
Simplified.
Man, how much of a miss has this been? Just in general. Let's just pause for a moment, right?
Complete miss.
And
we have this wonderful technology and we haven't used it at all. At all.
Like,
we used it once in Season of War Thondia.
We're like, here's a food replicator. Look, I can make gumdrops.
Right. It's just Earl Grey. Hot.
Just hot. Yeah. Exactly.
That's it. That's all it makes.
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
Yeah, it's such a miss. It's so disappointing. But you know what? The reality is that we can change that, folks. We have that power now.
I mean, GW has this incredible technology of battle packs. And there's no reason that we can't put this to good use. So let's do it. How are we going to use them in 4.0? Well, we're going to have a simplified starter battle pack with 6, 6, 6, 6. How many? This many. 6 solid battle plans. Those are in the core book. That is a battle pack you can play with 6 fun battle plans that do not use whatever version of battle tactics exists, and is like we don't need to not use rules. We're just using the simplified version of the game in a simple battle pack. That's it.
Yep.
Okay. That's 1. 2. We're gonna have a multiplayer battle pack with how many? 6. 6 solid multiplayer battle plans.
It'd be great. Imagine that. Wouldn't that be neat?
Be great. It turns out this is a fun way to play Warhammer, and I would love to see some nod to it. You have 300 pages in this stupid core book. Cut out 4 pages of random studio people's armies. Okay? Like, no offense, I know they worked hard on them. I'm very happy for them that they have an army. But you can post that in a Warcom article. You didn't need to be printed in the book. And put in real things that are value to me. All right? Yeah. As a consumer.
Yep.
Right? And so there you go. And then every one what do I mean by multiplayer? Great question. I mean more than 2. That's what I mean. So this could be, I can see lots of iterations of this. This could be 3+. This could be 4 players, team games like 2-on-2, or sorry, doubles. I apologize.
Would that be nice?
Yes. That's what I mean by multiplayer. Okay. And Cygnus said, what about a small game beginner battle pack with smaller maps, fewer objectives? We'll touch on that in a second. I do have I have an item specifically for that, Cygnus. 1 year general's handbooks. They're 1 year. I don't know what this 6-month nonsense is, but that stops immediately.
Yep. Wouldn't that be great if it just wasn't?
If it just wasn't, we're going to do 1 year general's handbooks in 4.0. And we're going to do, that battle pack is going to be focused on event play, and I want 12 solid event focused battle plans. Whatever battle tactics are, they're in here, right? These things are, as we've discussed, these minimize instant sudden losses. These minimize weird random things.
Yep.
They are event battle plans meant to be consumable, where a TO can pick basically any 5 and be confident they're going to run a good tournament using those 5 in relatively any order.
Yeah.
If every year, or every GHB, or whatever we want to say, every GHB we've managed to create like 6 or 7 that are good event battle plans, just stop creating the other 5. Just go back, harvest the ones that were good, figure out what made them good before, and then make them all 12.
Yeah.
And if you want to know which ones they are, just this show, we've covered it. We've scored them every time a GHB has come out.
Yep.
And yes, absolutely agreed, Gareth. Create in this event pack, put an actual unified event scoring system. Like, even if it's just a sample, this is how we recommend you score your tournament.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Yep. Yep.
Empower the TOs so they don't have to figure that out on their own.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. It seems so simple. If only it was.
Yeah, we can call it event battle pack, tournament battle pack. I don't care. It can be whatever. Right? What's in a name? That's what its focus is. Right? And so then we can introduce additional battle packs over the course of the edition, like a doubles focused battle pack. Teams. I'd love to see a teams focused battle pack. And here I mean teams like that weird European style they play with team captains and a bunch of nonsense.
I don't know. It's weird. We'll allow it.
It's fine.
Yeah.
They seem to all really have a good time playing with it, and I'd love to see a battle pack focused.
They enjoy it, so sure, it could be in there.
Triumph and Treachery, Siege, like whatever. This is just, you can imagine the list.
Yeah.
Yeah. But let's use this technology. Okay. Did I miss anything here, Tom?
No, I mean, I think that really captures what's right. Like, it's really easy to miss that. And it's really easy for them to feel driven to keep reinventing the wheel when we get like a perfect, like when we get the platonic battle pack or battle plan, right? Leave it alone. Let it just carry forward. If you have to create a rule, don't carry any more than 6 forward in any given year. Right?
Sure.
So
Yeah. I mean, like,
always just half of them are new.
Again, like I think that it's perfectly feasible to do 12 solid event focused battle plans.
Sure.
We know what makes an event battle plan at this point. No runaway scoring, no random sudden loss, diminished randomness overall in how things do, skill tests through things like objective removal and deployment, no long side to long side when tables are butt to butt everywhere. Like there is a very simple reality of what makes a good event battle plan. If there wasn't, we couldn't sit there and score these. And then basically our scoring that we do at the launch of every GHB, if you then map that on to what things are actually played in events, it's pretty dead on. So I'm not saying we have like a
saying,
tremendous insight. Not at all. I'm saying it's common sense. Okay.
You're saying just do the math, GW.
I'm saying Relocation Orb isn't
Yeah.
an event battle plan, and everybody knows it. Right?
Yeah. Yep. I mean, you're just preaching to the choir.
Prize of Gallet is. There you go. Right?
Yeah. Yep. Yep. No, I agree with that. I do.
So, like, again, and they know. The problem with it is they've been trying to make the General's Handbook not an event play. Like, those battle plans aren't meant to be the event play battle plans. They're meant to be, like, the year's battle plans. And some of these can be used for events. No. Stop it. Persona-based design. Who is the targeted user for this product? Right? Yeah. By the way, the GHB could have other battle packs in it. I'd love to see a GHB with like some of these other battle packs I'm talking about also introduced. That would be the book I'd slide them in on. Like, I'd love to see the team's battle pack and then the generic event battle pack, both occurring in a GHB one year. And then the next year they do a Triumph and Treachery one in there. Like, who cares? Great. I'm saying the user persona for the event battle pack, the tournament, the TO consuming battle pack should be 12 event battle plans. The problem, and so it's not as though I think they're just dumb. I don't think they are at all. I think they're actually like I think they are a really, really smart team. I just think they've been trying to serve too many masters. By splitting these battle packs out, I think that they'll get to a world where the actual user who wants to use them is being properly served by what occurs in the battle pack. Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Cool. There we go. All right. That one's less controversial. Pretty straightforward. By the way, I really can't state enough that I really want to see a new multiplayer battle pack with 6 solid battle plans. And by this, I mean like 3+ players. I cannot explain how often this is useful to me. I can't be the only human on the planet who regularly plays 3-player games or 4-player games.
No, it's just you.
It's just me. Yeah, I guess. But, we mentioned it when we were doing the look back show, and that GHB 2017 was an all-time banger. So please, let's have that occur. I don't need it more than once an edition. I'm not asking for much. I'm asking for like 13 pages in some book once in an edition. Maybe less. You could probably squeeze it to 7.
Insanity.
I feel my ask is quite reasonable. Okay. Cool. Anything else on battle packs, Tom?
No, I think it sounds good.
Okay. Armies. So this one is a little interesting one, because what I want to do here with armies is not go through all 25 armies and how I want to see them change in 4.0. That's way too massive. Okay. Can I go for it? I really don't know. Is the answer. What I mean by armies is I would love to see them establish a sort of vision document at the start of the edition to put a general box around the themes, rules, and plans for every army at the onset of the edition.
Okay.
If it was me and I was doing this, if I was product managing this, I would ask effectively I would have my designers do an analysis. This would be an elaboration sprint, basically.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
And the output of this would be a no more than 4-page document describing the general themes, conceptual rules, and focuses of the army at a high level.
Okay.
Okay. To where what I am, that will then act as the guiding document when it comes time to make that actual book. And you will operate as the designers within the bounds of that book, of that Bible you've created, of that 4-page Bible. Okay? So, in other words, this will help you establish and see early on the design space you want to explore. These don't need to be fleshed out ideas. They are very high level, right? So let's take an easy example here. Corn, right? In my corn document, it would say things like should be melee focused, right?
Sure.
Um, should rely on units dying friendly or enemy to achieve more power, hence plays a strong attrition game and is stronger in the late game. Mechanics that explore interesting ways to profit or manipulate are off of units dying. Okay. No magic, has a heavy priest focus. No strong focus on monsters in the traditional sense, other than bloodthirsters. Okay. Is an army of, mostly people, dudes, non-monster units, right? Design space to explore would be things like heroic actions, special heroic things, because Khorne is an army that pushes for its heroes to excel above all else and separate themselves from the pack, right? So explore interesting ways for level up potential areas for exploration, level up mechanics, heroes sort of get more powerful on doing and accomplishing certain things, new heroic actions, stuff like that, right? And that'd be the vision document. You get it? Yeah?
Yep.
I would do one of those for all 25 armies.
Yep. So it provides basically design guidelines for when they get to there.
Yep.
Yep. That makes sense.
And what I would love is then what that would hopefully help them spot early on is when some army is going to be reaching into some other army's bowl and stealing some of their candy. Right? It would help them more separate the identities of the armies, because several times I think we've seen things where game design space was being pushed for an army and it didn't need to be. That's not the identity of that army. Why we're exploring that here because we got a cool idea to explore that thing here.
Right.
And it's not within the purview of this
army. Identify terrain, no terrain.
Yep. Sure.
Like imagine a world where we had that tech before. Right, where they had known that hey, this is pre-designated for this army or not for this army.
Yeah. And so as Cygnus just said, development guardrails. Yes. This effectively by the team's going to come together and create this document. So everybody has to agree this is what we're going to do. It's not like this is being dictated, right? This is an emergent property of the entire team. And then when it comes time for the book itself to be written, then you're operating within those guardrails. You don't go outside of the guardrails. That's why they're guardrails.
Right.
And that army's going to have a unique identity in the same way it would have a unique silhouette on the table.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that makes sense. Yeah.
And yes, as Josh A. said, poor Maw tribes, right? Ogres are the classic example of this, where everybody just reaches in and takes everything the ogres have constantly. We count as more on objectives. No, everybody else does that too. We get to do mortal wounds in the charge. Everybody else does that too, right? It's just everybody just takes their stuff, and to the point where they have nothing unique about them.
Right. They've lost their identity that was.
Right. Whereas if we establish this document, we can create those division lines.
Yep.
Right. We can also have sort of key important things be really honed in on early up, okay, hold on, this is going to be the regenerating army. Okay, then we need to be careful about how many models we allow them to put on the table in general, or how expensive everything is, or whatever, or right? You could break the document down into concept, areas to explore, risks.
Yeah.
Right, and that would end up just being a very powerful tool to kick off the actual design process when it comes time to write those books. Right. I think it's absolutely worth investing the time in. I mean, you have to be willing to invest the elaboration sprint into this.
Right.
And to me, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
Right.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. So yeah. I think to me this is like the number one thing I'd want to see with Armies, because I think it would lead to the 4.0 books being the strongest they've ever been. And
Yeah,
you know what we
like
see
have
when this.
unified, like because here would be the advantage of it is that you'd have unified vision from the beginning, and this the problem that we have of uneven books, of uneven design from beginning
Mhm.
to end,
Yep.
would evaporate in that sense, or at least be minimized.
It helps
Because what's
minimize, yeah.
helps minimize, because what you're doing is you're looking at all the armies and exploring all the possible design angles before making decisions,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And putting things into print. No, I agree with that.
And again, this doesn't need to be a huge output. You're not trying to pre-write the book. This is written
Right,
in normal human language. You don't have to worry about getting rules text. You don't have to worry about playtesting. This is concepts, ideas, explorations, and risks.
right, right.
Right. So you can be quite loose. You can put this together quite fast, comparatively.
Yeah.
Would you see this doc breaking it down to specific units? No, absolutely not. Definitely not.
Mm-hmm.
Unless there's some key unit that's a central part of the faction, as I mentioned with Khorne, right? So like no monster focus other than Bloodthirsters. Well, there I referenced
Well,
a
that's
unit,
not
right?
really what you're doing, right?
Yeah, but you're not operating at that granular level unless it's something so critical to the army that you feel like you need to mention it. So, for example, the Seraphon document might mention the Slann
Sure.
because
I
he's
can see
such a
that.
central character to that army,
Yeah. Yep.
right?
Yep. And so what you're going to communicate is something about, right, and how the salon is going to function, how it's going to be unique in this.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. By even mentioning a unit, you've said something,
You're
right?
saying that it's distinct, that it needs to have an identity that's significant for that thing.
Exactly. Rule of cool wargaming. Would you also want guardrails for the edition? GHB rules that stay within a range. Don't go exploring new rules and territory midway through this edition that ruin battle tomes that have already come. I think it's not a terrible idea to kind of sketch out an arc, but I like you're always going to want the GHB to be pushing and exploring and bringing the seasons to and the narrative to life in some way. I think you do and should be careful about invalidating um, army books. You know, I mean that's like
That's a problem.
yeah, it's for example, it's generally not fun right now to play Sons of Behemoth in the current season because you just don't really play the game. You're playing like some percentage of the game that isn't 100.
It doesn't feel like the game has been designed for you.
Right. You're just kind of not getting to participate.
You're existing in a space, you're being tolerated in a space that doesn't feel like you're actually playing the game.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Yeah, hammer down 687. Marathi would be another one. Yeah, Marathi would absolutely show up in the doc book or in the doc Bible, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that would be the type of thing where you could say something like, the army is flimsy except for Marathi, who should be unkillable or something, right?
Yeah.
Like those are intentional design decisions.
But to me, then, like, I would absolutely put that Vision Bible together at the start of the edition. It would one because it's going to catapult me to then have some initial thoughts that I can then build on later. Oh, neat. We said let's explore maybe a level up or heroic action mechanic. Cool, because this is the hero focused army. It's Khorne. Their heroes are all about being the best of the best of the best of the best of the best, right? And then by the time it comes for me to write the Khorne book, I've got that baseline. I know that's the thing I want to do. Maybe it's been bouncing around the back of my head as I worked on other books. I didn't try to write it into that book, right? I said, "Ooh, that's a cool idea. I'm gonna note that back down. Save that for the hero focused book I know is coming."
Yes, you're letting it be what it is for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's good.
All right, cool. Anything else? What else? Is there anything else on armies, Tom, that you would want to see broad based? Like, what else when we think of armies writ large, right? Would we want to see? I mean, I think the point about hopefully don't invalidate armies on a GHB season, would yes, hopefully. I think that'd be nice.
I mean, what I would say is this: any time that you're doing core game design, I would make sure that you are thinking about, like, we're doing core rules writing, right, as part of this ground up situation. Man, it would be great if they actually thought through and like you're using the example of validating it, right? but I think that they need to do iterations for their core rules through a lens of what if this is all monster? What if this is all infantry? What if this is all um, because you'll get those skews in armies, and I think
Sure.
that's I think like that ends up showing it's egregious in examples where like armies don't feel like they fit like Suns,
Sure.
right? But there are other permutations that you'll bump into this, right? In other combinations, not specifically Suns, which is the entire army, but like portions of an army, it it would be something that would be worth exploring.
Yep. Absolutely. Okay. Cool. All right. Let's do some lightning round. Lightning round. This is just grab bag time. Okay. Things we'd like to
Sure.
see. And I purposely left a couple items off this list, but I have them in my notes, just because I wanted to foster the discussion. Okay.
Sure.
All right. Lightning round stuff. More balance at different points levels, including an ease of starting to 40k for the new combat patrol for 10th. This is something that I want to see. I want to see the game have the boxes, the buy the box, paint the box, play the box against the other box, like they're doing for combat patrol. I want to see that be a thing. Okay.
Sure.
I want to see more balance
Sure.
at different points levels. I want to see the game have, again, could be a battle pack focused on a lower point level with smaller maps and less objectives, or more objectives, or but they're whatever because they're closer. I don't know.
Sure.
Could be different things. We could go a bunch of different directions, right? Like, but I want to see more 500 point, 1,000 point support. That's what those first two bullets break down to. It's a lot of permutations of what that could boil down to. Better balance at that points level, different battle packs at that level, ease of purchasing the product and getting going at that level. Like, let's create an actual on-ramp for the game.
Okay.
That's it, man. That's it. And I think they will do this. I think if this isn't part of their thinking, I will be shocked. Because 40k is doing this right now, and people have cheered this. People are very excited about this. Okay. And frankly, I am too. I think this is super cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a matter of them getting the design right? Like that's what this is going to take.
Yes. And again, it's one of the ways they're doing it with Combat Patrol. Tom, I don't know how tapped into like the new 40k 10th edition thing you are.
Not.
But it's fine. One of the ways they're doing it, you don't have to be. One of the ways they're doing it is there are actually altered scrolls, data slates.
Okay.
What we would think of as war scrolls, right? For the Combat Patrol setting.
Okay.
That sort of simplify some things down. It's still mostly the same scroll. It's just a slightly simplified version that makes it so when you buy this box, it plays correctly against all the other boxes. And they talked about how they did a lot of playtesting and really focused hard on the playtesting and making sure all these boxes.
So they
play
actually
well
designed it for that.
Yeah. And like, maybe that's necessary, maybe it's not. AOS isn't 40k, it never has been, right? Like, we already have simplified rules. So maybe that kind of a thing isn't necessary, but I love the idea of having that and playtesting against each other and knowing like this is a good starter experience. Yeah.
It's just intentional design.
Yep. So like, to me, this is a slam dunk. I really do believe this has got to be part of their thinking. I think the 40k thing is already gotten such amazing feedback. I don't know how it couldn't be.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, it just seems like a natural next step.
Right. Like, they have to be aware that they have an on-ramp problem right now.
Right.
Have to.
Right.
Okay. And so if that's the case, then the first thing I would this is the way I would fix that. And so I just, like, if I can see it from 10 miles away, there's no way they sitting there looking at sales numbers and stuff like that can't see it.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems like a natural next step for them.
Yep. Again, make these boxes around $100-ish. I think that's a perfectly reasonable sort of buy-in point. and there you go. You're good.
Yeah.
It's your best chance to grow your actual customers. Not everybody's going to move up to the full 2K game, but some people will.
Right. Right.
It's a lot better than having no easy way to do it, other than just having people bulldoze their way through it, right?
Well, it's just a natural starting point, right?
Right, exactly. Okay, the next one is just more of a thing. I want to see more continuation of quarterly balanced battle scrolls with points and rules changes. With points and rules changes. I want to see both of these things.
Weird. Wouldn't that be nice?
I know we're still seemingly against changing rules. I don't care. Change the rules. I really don't care. The book is a historical artifact at best at this point.
Sure.
Just a better game is worth it. Period.
Yeah. Yes.
Like,
correct.
Why would the choice be, I'm going to knowingly make our product worse because we don't want to annoy people who bought a book?
Yeah.
Okay,
it's
well, one,
nonsensical.
improve the development process so you have to change this kind of stuff less. That's number one, right? Like, an ounce of prevention's worth a pound of cure. But two, if the patient's sick, doctor, heal thy patient. Okay?
Sure.
That's it.
Yeah.
All right. More careful balance of summoning, regeneration, and restoration mechanics. We've seen these things flipped around a lot. We talked about it last week on overused mechanics.
Yep.
I think that we're throwing a lot of these things around, and they're ramping up in various and sundry ways. Lots of units respawning onto the battlefield in big ways, and I'm not seeing the actual overall game adjust to the fact. And like, two of the top armies right now are armies that respawn basically entire units onto the battlefield.
Yep.
And or cause of, like, they have this hilarious combination. Both of the, like, two of the top armies right now have this hilarious combination of basically auto causing mortal wounds to things that fight them.
Yep.
And then respawning the unit when it dies.
Yep.
So they can't lose. Basically, they can't lose the attrition war.
Correct. They could be zoned out, but yes.
Sure.
I understand what
you're saying. Yeah. Well, it depends. It's hard to zone them out when all your stuff's dying. But yes.
I mean, it's true.
So I just want to see a lot more focus on this. Like, I don't have a problem with these mechanics, but they need to be used very carefully. These things are fire, and if you're not careful, they'll burn your house down.
Yeah.
More careful balance of out of phase actions. This is the other one. Playing around with out of phase stuff. We're getting a little hinky with some recent tomes on some out of phase things. I'm looking at you, Murder Lust.
Yeah.
Okay, but you're not alone. There's plenty of other ones. And so, I know all the Corn players are immediately going to be like, it's not that bad. I don't care.
But isn't it?
I don't care. It's just like, these things need to be watched. There's just, this out of phase stuff is very, very strong.
It's a
very strong. And we need to pay attention to that. Right? Yep. In Magic, when you hand out flash to things that don't have flash, that's usually a mechanic that they watch very carefully, because they know that turning something that's normally not, instant speed interaction into instant speed interaction wildly changes its power level.
Yep.
It's the same thing here.
We should have learned this with fighting out of phase. We should have learned this with shooting out of phase. We should have learned this with strikes first.
Sure. Yep, exactly. All of these things are what I'm talking about. Okay.
Yep.
Now, I purposely left two things off this list, but don't worry. I've seen them mentioned in the chat. But these I wanted to be open discussion to end on. We've talked about them a lot on the show.
Yep.
So here's the two things that I purposely left off this list. Is cohesion and terrain.
Okay. Yep.
Because I wanted to get... I think action needs to be taken on both of these things. All right?
Okay.
But I wanted to have a little take from both of us on coherency, unit cohesion, and terrain. Let's start with coherency. Okay?
Okay.
What, if anything, Tom, would you change about coherency in 4.0?
You can pull units out of cohesion as long as either then call at the end of the turn, or as long as they pile back into cohesion. Or is that correct? That's I'm talking through the.
You can't in the current rules. You cannot forcibly move out of cohesion, but you can be pulled out of it. Yes, but then you have to on your next move, you have to get back into cohesion.
So the easy way to fix cohesion shenanigans would be just to make it when you pull models, you can't remove models that would force a loss of.
What's that? You cut out there at the end.
That when you pull models, you can't pull models in a way that makes it out of cohesion.
Okay. Do you want to see a change to general cohesion distance or count? Let me give you two easy examples. Okay.
Yeah. Count is the answer.
Okay. Because we could play with distance.
Yeah.
You could go to go to a 2-inch.
And cohesion, you shouldn't have to maintain it if you're 6 models or less. Like the 5 number, 5 is the magic number.
Got it. Because you could take a big swing. You could do like unit cohesion X inches from the unit champ or something like that, which is a rule I don't actually like in this particular setting. I like the fact that you can sometimes form odd shapes. I think there is a interesting skill testing element to that. But there obviously a version in many games is like there's sort of a central figure, a champion or something like that, and then everybody has to be within X inches of that person. Otherwise, they can be however.
Yeah, and I would be okay with that. I would also be okay tinkering not only 6 or more, also with particularly shaped model. And so what I mean by that is this: things that are oval, I wouldn't mind them having different cohesion rules.
Okay.
And I know that's complexity. I know that in general.
Yeah, I don't. But go ahead.
I think that cav bases have almost uniformly been bad.
Sure. Other than being like 5 model units that are either chaff or sit in a line and run forward.
That's exactly it's being used in ways that wasn't necessarily intended, right? Mm-hmm. I think that there could be some interesting cohesion opportunities with that, and it could even be like a keyword based thing. Like mounted models may have a different cohesion ruling. Mm-hmm. Like if you have a mount, cohesion looks different. So I wouldn't mind tinkering with that as well.
Sure. Yeah, to me, I think if we suddenly went to the X distance around a champion, I probably wouldn't like it. I don't think it needs it. I do think at minimum,
yeah,
the 5 models or less needs to go to 6 models or less. Like that is just flat minimum. And I would actually rather it go to 11 or less. Okay? Because what we're trying to stop, the bad behavior that was being corrected for with the cohesion rules is wild daisy chaining. And units just being all cattywampus.
Correct.
Okay.
No, I agree. If you went to 10 or lower, I think that, or like 11 or lower.
Yeah, 11 or lower.
I think you're fine. Do we ever have an instance?
11 model units. Yes, there are multiple 11 model units because of Warcry things and Bliss Barbs and stuff like that. But the point of it being I don't actually see any issue with 10 models standing in a line. Who cares? Who cares 10 models stand in a line? First of all, 25 millimeter models can still just be 10 models standing in a line under current coherency rules. That actually works. So it's just dumb that this one unique base size can still stand like that, but everyone else has to do this.
Yes. Correct.
Right? So let's just admit that the actual problem is when people take clouds of 20, 30, 60 models and try to daisy chain them around the board like lunatics. Okay? Yes. So put the harder restrictions on the 11 plus models and let people just play with their freaking toys when they have 6 model elite units.
Correct.
Okay?
Because I would be okay if saying,
You need to come
You have.
forward, Tom. You're like 50 feet
Oh,
from your
sorry.
mic, and it keeps
Sorry.
cutting out. Stay
Sorry.
near your mic.
If you're more than 11, I wonder if the right answer isn't just wholly within 9 inches of the command model.
Yeah, and again, that's a perfectly fine. Like you could go that strategy. That's sort of the Legion model, right? And
Right.
you know, I generally, it's my only issue with that is I do think there is a valid thing to like. It gets hinky because we have so many different weird base sizes, right?
Yes. Yeah,
And
I get
I
that.
know a lot of people like this, but there's a lot of secondary consequences that flow out of that choice. Okay, sure. Legion is like a lot of people who are mostly on the same size base. There are variances, of course, I understand that, but we have a lot of units that are often on wildly different size bases. Okay, and it gets weird when there is no champion because there's plenty of units that don't have a champion model. So who do I measure from?
Sure.
Where like I want to be in a weird boot pattern or something like that, and it would tend to be outside that range. It's not a problem. It's just me setting up like a picket L or something like that, right?
Right.
And so I that's why I wouldn't. It's not like I think it's the end of the world if we went to some Legion style thing, right? And something like 9 inches or 12 inches is a very forgiving distance. Like you could find the right distance that would minimize the annoyance. Okay.
No, yeah. To be clear, Gareth, what we're saying is that cohesion would only be within 1 inch, like on 11 or less. You still have to be within 1 inch of an ally, but you don't have to create these like triangles of being within 1 inch of two models.
Yeah. The advanced coherency rules kick in at 12 models, is what I'm saying.
Yes. So you can, as like cohesion still exists, you still have to be within one of your model. It's the problem is when you're having to like create triangles on the end and other hinky stuff because you need to be within an inch of two other models. That's when this falls off the rails for a lot of these big units, big based units. Yes,
I that's why I think the Legion style coherency is taking a hammer it's just like it's taking a sledgehammer to a nail, right?
Correct.
Like the actual problem we have right now, it's not like, again, if that was the choice, fine. I don't think it's a solution it's a very big change, and it's not necessarily a change we need. What we do need to do is make it so I can play 6-person units that are functional. That's it. And 10-person units that are functional. That's it. Okay. And like that's why that's why it's just like it's great. That's the major problem. 6 models of pain that took us to play right now. I'd like to see it fixed. So by expanding it up to 11, you just get that nice inclusion of 10 model units. Yep. Fun times.
For me, it's 10 cav model, 10 cav bases. That is the real pain. Like sure. I just want to run 10 cav in a unit. Why can't I do that?
Sure.
Why do I always have to run 5?
Sure. And so like I just feel like that's a sort of that I could. Like I said, I would if they went to the wider coherency thing, like exist in the cloud. The Legion rules or whatever you want to call it. Like it's just a cloud mechanic. Everybody has to be within the electron cloud of the right
of the leader.
The leader. Fine. Like again, I'm not gonna throw my fists up or think it's like the worst thing in the world. It would still be better than what we have now. That is for sure.
It's fine.
Yes. I would just rather not hit this particular nail with a sledgehammer. Mm-hmm. All right. Mm-hmm. The other one, terrain. I mean, the answer here is the terrain show we've talked about 100 times, right? There should just be formal terrain rules for the basic types, which is like a thing that completely blocks line of sight, right? A thing that is impassable, a thing that is garrisonable, and a thing that is cover.
Yeah, you'd think that would be easy enough at this point.
Right? Like, that's got to be the answer here, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So let's just do that then, I guess.
I mean, are we going to just do that?
I feel like that's just the answer, which is there are 4 basic keyword type things, functions to terrain. Terrain gets assigned either impassable, You can't land on it, can't move on it, can't do anything with it. Garrisonable, where it's impassable unless you get inside it, right? Line of sight blocking, right? And so where it's, you can move through it, but it blocks line of sight if you go through more than X amount of space of it or something. And it provides cover. +1 to save.
Yeah. That seems
that's fine,
pretty
right?
Straightforward.
Yeah. Okay.
It seems...
Like, I think that covers the bases. I mean, we can, by the way, you can still have like mystic terrain rules and stuff like that on top of it. I'm fine with all those things. Terrain can be wonderful and magical and wild and crazy. It's the mortal realms. I see no reason why we can't layer that stuff on there as well if you want. But it feels like this is sort of the baseline. Like,
right.
These are describing two different things. I'm describing the physical thing and how it exists in the world, right?
Sure.
How it interacts with other physical objects.
Yep.
Those rules, like arcane and damned, that's describing some ephemeral concept of its, place on the game table, right? Not how it interacts with physical objects in the world. Like, a building could be mystical. A building could be damned. A building could be haunted. A building could be whatever. I'm fine. But it's still a building. I can't just walk through the wall. Right? No matter how mystical it is.
Yep.
Okay. So, to me, that just feels like... I think this just feels like the most basic slam dunk. So I would just like to see it in there. And again, that's... not even a page of text. It's a full page with a picture.
Sure.
Showing kind of like what this would mean. That's it. Well, that's it. Don't worry, Hammer Down. Like I said, you still got those silly mystical terrain rules. Those are still over there. Yes, exactly. You can sell 2 dice sets. There you go. That's exactly right. You can both mark it as impassable and mystical. Hey. See?
So many opportunities.
Stonks. Profits. Money. Synergy. Did I sell you? All right. There we go. I agree. Hey, well, monstrous smash terrain should remove the terrain from the table. I won't be taking questions at this time. Agreed. Like, I got no issues with that. It sounds like it's boy oh boy, does Smash to Rubble not actually do anything? Isn't that a shame?
Yep.
We added that thing in and then just made it do nothing.
Nope. Seems like a miss. That's all I'm saying.
Yep. So, there we go. That's it. Tom, is there anything else on your personal 4.0 wish list? Anything else that you're looking at going, oh, geez, I sure hope this happens?
Get rid of battle tactics.
Sure.
In their current incarnation. I know. I'm going to say it again because it's important.
Okay.
It needs to go.
All right. That's fine. I mean, if I was going to repeat one, it would be to go back to the beginning and say Skaven relaunch win. I think that would be great. Halo is advocating for the removal of miscast. Tom, you want to see the removal of miscast? No, you could do this in multiple ways. Okay? Miscast could be if you roll snakies, it always fails, no matter what your bonuses are. Right? It doesn't need to do the extra mortal wounds or stop you from casting additional spells. It could just be a critical failure always stops spellcasting. Right?
Yeah, I would just want to tweak it.
Halo, have I reached across the aisle to you on that one, sir? With a critical cast failure. To where there's no mortal wounds involved. It doesn't stop future casting. It can't go off. So even if you accumulate super bonuses, because I hate when casters make magic auto cast. That does bother me.
Yeah. Agreed.
Like, I hate when people are like, oh, I rolled snakes. That's 6. Still casts. I'm like, oh, cool. Ugh. Then why are we rolling dice?
Yeah.
Right? So,
ridiculous.
I like there being some chance of failure.
Sure.
CW says I'd rewrite the entire magic system, but Tom would probably hate it. I say we go back to cards 4th edition style. Let's do this. Okay.
Sounds terrible.
Absolutely. All right. Well, folks, there we go. I just don't like auto anything for the most part. I like when there's some chance of failure. I think some chance of failure is just generally interesting in a RNG game. So yeah, how about that? Hey, what other ideas do you have? What do you hope they put in there? For all the I assume GW staff, it's time to kick off your morning. I hope you all enjoyed this 2-hour break every Thursday morning. I assume we all just huddle around. So thank you all for watching. I appreciate it. For all of you out there, thank you so much for watching. So I really appreciate it. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe. Hey, guess what? June 2nd, everybody. If you stayed till the end, you get a little announcement. June 2nd, next Friday. Snarling Badger Studios, which is Uncle Adam's game company, myself and Uncle Adam, our new game will be launching. So we're going to be talking about it in the week before. I welcome your guesses as to what exactly the new game's about. We're very excited, but it'll be launching on June 2nd. If you're coming to TMX on the 3rd and 4th up in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, that'll be your first chance to play it live. We'll have the books there for people. We'll be running some demo games and stuff like that. It's going to be a fun time. But I hope people get hyped for that. We're really excited about this game. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. We have so many plans for this and for the future. It's been for both this game and games for years to come. It's incredible fun. So we're gonna keep doing this. I hope you all keep giving our games a chance. So check that out. June 2nd. Follow me at Warhammer Weekly. That's up there. It's right up there. If you want to see some spoiler type teasers over the next week. But thank you all for watching. Hit like, hit subscribe, do those things, support the channel. As always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next Wednesday.